This is your warm-up for today. It is just going back over how to solve by graphing. So you're going to start with these two equations that are set up in standard form. At this point, you should pause, give about 5 minutes to try to graph this on your own. You should be using graph paper. Next, we're going to actually solve it. And in order to solve it, we need to find each of the x and y intercepts. So the first equation, 2x plus 3y equals 21. We are going to solve that for 0 for x. So we're going to cover up the 2x or put a 0 there. In this case, right here. And so as you look at that, you end up with 3y equaling 21. Divide by 3 on both sides, so y equals 7. So you can go ahead and graph that on the y-axis, counting up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and putting a point right there on that y-axis. You're going to do the same thing for the x-intercept. Again, either covering up the 3y or putting a 0 in. 3 times 0 is 0, so you're just left with 2x equaling 21. Divide that by 2. So you end up with x equaling 10.5. Again, that's a little bit beyond where we're at on this graph, so you gotta go a little bit further than what I have graphed. And you do want to make sure that you have a straight edge or something that can give you a really accurate straight line. You can see that my line there is not the best. It missed the x-intercept by a little bit. Now the next thing that you need to work on is the second equation. And so that second equation, 5x plus 3y equals 30. We're going to do the same thing, covering up the x's first. So 3y equals 30, dividing by 3, y equals 10. So on the y-axis, we're going to put a point at 10. And then we're going to do the same thing for the x-intercept. You're going to cover up 3y, so you get 5x equals 30. Divide both of those sides by 5, x equaling 6. Putting that point there, and again, doing your best to try to get a straight line. Now I'm going to guess that this actually should have crossed about that point right there. And that point is actually our solution, and yours is probably done a little bit more accurately, but that would have been at 3, 5. So the solution for our warm-up today should have been at 3, 5. Make sure that you have this written down. Make sure that you date your warm-up so that you have it to be ready to turn in for your packet. The next thing that you see are the answers to yesterday's homework assignment. This was practice 7.3, I believe. So you can check to see to make sure that you have this all correct. You had choices, so you got to choose which ones you wanted to do. I do believe I did ask you to do 46 and 47. So just make sure that you have completed everything here. You can pause this at this point. And when you are finished, you may resume watching the video. Right now, you're going to want to make sure that you have this worksheet. This is question number 2. Question number 1 will actually be your homework tonight. The setup of this worksheet is exactly like the test that you're going to have tomorrow. It is going to be 25 points. The first 5 points are going to be defining the variable. The next 5 points are going to be writing that systems of equations. Now, in order to figure things out, the first thing you probably want to do is start using the cubes method. And that means that you want to start looking at circling all of the numbers. So as I read it, it says, suppose you are collecting the tickets for the school play. You collect 595 tickets. So I'm going to circle $5.95. Admission is $5 for adults and $3 for students. The total amount of money from the ticket sales is $1,951. So you should have made sure to circle all of those numbers, and then it says set up a system of equations and solve using all three methods. So the first thing, as we're looking at that problem, we want to underline underline the question. And the question in this one is just really to solve using all three methods. And so important things, we know that we are selling tickets and that it's $5 for adults and $3 for students. So that's important. And then our total amount of money is also important. And that was $1,951. Define the variables just means tell me what you want your X and Y to be. The two things that we have that are changing here are adult tickets and student tickets. So that first step is to just say that X equals and Y equals, and you get to choose what you want them to be. Just for the fact that adults came first, I'm going to put those as the X's. So adults or adult tickets should say. And then, let's see if we can, too much. So adult tickets are X, leaving us student tickets for Y. That'll be worth 5 points on the test tomorrow. Then we need to set up that system. Now the first part of this is going to be you could do with the money. So all of the money is going to make one equation. So our money equation is going to involve $5, $3, and $1,951. Since it's $5 per adult, that equation is going to be 5x, and it's $3 per student, so that's going to be 3y. And we know that we're going to make a total of $1,951. To find a total, you add those two amounts up, and they're going to equal that $1,951. That's our first equation. Now the second equation is what we call our totals equation. This is where you have 595 total tickets. So you're going to have an amount of adults and an amount of students that go. So when you set that up, how do you find a total? Hopefully you know that the total means that you would add those two things up. So we have adult tickets in X, student tickets in Y. So we want to add those two quantities up, and we want that total to be $595. Now if you have these two things set up for tomorrow, you would have 10 out of 25 points. This is the first set of what you need to get done tomorrow. Now we need to start looking at actually solving them. Next thing we're going to do is by substitution. So since I already have an equation that has X and Y without coefficients, or coefficients of 1 really, I'm going to solve those for just one variable. So I'm going to take my X plus Y equals 595, and I'm going to solve that for X. And I'm going to subtract Y on both sides. Since 595 does not have a Y, I cannot combine them. So X equals 595 minus Y. Now I rewrite my first equation, 5, leave a blank where there's an X, and fill the rest of the equation in. Now I'm going to take what X is equal to, this whole thing, and I'm going to substitute it in here. So 595 minus Y gets substituted in. Now that I have that set up, I need to use the distributive property. So 5 times 595, 2,975, minus 5 times Y, which is 5y, plus 3y equals 1,951. The terms negative 5y and 3y are on the same side, so we just combine them. So 2,975 minus 2y equals 1,951. Now it's a two-step problem. So I subtract 2975 on both sides. Get negative 2y equals 1,024, a negative, of course. And so I divide by negative 2. So y equals 512. And again, the y is the same as it was when we solved by elimination. So in substitution, you get the same answer, and you do need to still show that. So you're going to say that you have 512 student tickets. And as you are solving that, you again still have to show your work. And so you need to make sure that you're finding the x's. So I'm going to use this second equation, x equals 595. And I'm going to substitute in my y, which is 512. When you solve that, you're going to get the same answer. So x is going to equal 83. 83 is going to be your adult tickets. Either way you solve, substitution or elimination, you are getting both answers to be the same. That is also going to be true when we are graphing. When you are graphing, you want to make sure that you understand what your x and y's represent. For us, x was adult tickets, so we're going to make sure that we label that adult tickets. And we want to also make sure to remember to label student tickets. And then we know that we're only using the first quadrant because everything is positive. We also know where these are going to meet. We know that answer is 5, 12, and 83. So what we're going to work on, first of all, is understanding that our x and y intercepts using the red equation, x plus y equals 595. We know that in that red equation, our x-intercept is 595 and our y-intercept is 595. And that's just because you put 0 in for x. You're going to get y equals 595. And if I put 0 in for y, I know that I'm going to get x equals 595. So that means that on my axes, I have to go all the way up to 600 somehow. Now also in that second equation, the blue one, let's do the x and y intercepts there as well. So I'm going to cover up or put a 0 in for y, for x first. And I get 3y equals 1,951. So we're going to have to divide that 1,951 by 3. Having the calculator issue, sorry. And that gets me 650 and a little bit over 1/3. And then I'm going to do the same thing for y. Plug in 0 for x. Again, dividing by 5. On both sides. So y equals 390.2 or 1/5. And so as you look at these equations, I've got a lot of big numbers. So I'm going to maybe go up by 50s, maybe every other one. So this will be 50. Make sure that if you do skip, you have to skip right away. So from the origin, 0, 0, I skipped 2 boxes. And that I may end up still running out. I do need to get an X all the way up to 600 approximately. So we got 100 here, 150, 200, 300. Looks like I'm going to be a little short. So maybe, since I'm going to be short, I'm going to maybe rewrite it and go up by hundreds. So let's go up by hundreds actually. Every so often you gotta erase a little bit. And sometimes it allows me to erase and sometimes it does not. So we're gonna actually change that to 100. So every other one is going to be up by 100. We're going to do the same thing for the student tickets. Going to skip every other one, going up by hundreds there as well. And now I'm going to graph. So the first one that I'm going to graph is going to be this red one. So I'm going to have a x-intercept at 595, get that really, really close to 600. A y-intercept of 595. And then my goal is to try to have the best straight line that I can. Now we also know that this is going to intersect somewhere about 83 and 512. So I'm just going to kind of put that estimate out there. I'll put that in black so that you kind of get that idea. Here's where I want that to meet. It's not a perfect graph, but it will give you an idea. And so now I'm graphing through that as best I can. Okay. Please use a straight edge when you are using that. And then for the blue line, we're going to go through at 650. On the y-axis. So that's going to be about right there. And then at 390, so just a little bit ahead of 400. And again, you know where they're going to intersect, so you want to draw your line as best you can through there. And you still want to show that intersection. You know what the intersection is, so you can go ahead and mark it as such. And then you want to give the answer. It's 83 adult tickets and 512 student tickets. At this point, you should have all of this down for that sheet of paper. I know it was a lot of work, but you guys are all capable of doing it. Your homework for today is an exact replica of what your quiz is going to be about tomorrow. So please make sure that you are working hard, either individually or with others, so that you understand how to do that entire worksheet. Make sure that you also have it completed for tomorrow, because you will be able to use it for the test tomorrow as well.